Eric Burgess here with Music Marketing TV. Today we're going to be looking at making this lead sound inside of SynthMaster 2. Yeah, so really fun sound. Let's go ahead and get a general overview, and then we're going to make this sound from scratch. So pretty simple sound, just at a high level. So there's just a single oscillator, single layer. There's some effects in post, and we're really getting the bulk of our sound out of what the filter is doing, along with some of the options we have with the oscillator down here. So it's a sawtooth oscillator. Bend plus or minus is the algorithm mode. And, I just settled on this bend setting. You could mess with this. A lot of extra different sounds you could get out just by messing with this. After that, we hit the filter. So in the filter, the analog filter's resonance is like amazing. So I really wanted to mess with this. And I have it on a high pass, and the filter, the resonance and cutoff are going to be sweeping up every time we hit a note via an ADSR, which is what creates that nice motion. And then from there, we go ahead and we fly over to the effects. And in the effects, we've got some distortion, ensemble, and reverb. These are all just sort of touch-ups. Without these, that's the result that we have. So the distortion really adds a lot to the resonancy part of the sound. And then the ensemble and the reverb are just to sort of like smooth it out. And I should mention also on the oscillator, there is a 3-voice unison. If we go over to the voices, you can see the detune curve and the type of spread. Very, very subtle, but it's there. And that is the bulk of how the sound works. So let's go ahead. Let's actually make this sound. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to copy this MIDI. We're going to bring up a new SynthMaster here. And we are going to, first, let's put our MIDI in. So we'll do that. All right, with the MIDI taken care of, and let's clear up the screen a bit. So with that taken care of, what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the top. We're going to click and go to the initialize preset. So on here, we've already got a sawtooth going. Let's go ahead. Let's change our algorithm to bend plus minus. I'm going to go to a similar setting that I had shown you before. This was just after some, experimentation. Not going to be that important right now. So there we go. Let's go. Let's add our unison. We'll do 3 voices. And in the voices tab, we're going to bring up the detune spread a bit. And this is how they are detuned. And if you go with a flatter setting, it's just going to be a bit more subtle. And you get, that lovely, that's so good. So we're going to try and capitalize on that sound. So in the filters, right now we're on a state variable filter. We're going to go ahead. We're going to go over to the analog. And we're going to go for a high pass. We're going to bring the resonance up. This is something you could really push the resonance quite high and get some really gnarly, sort of super pitchy sounds. But I'm going to leave this where it's at. And this is something we're going to have to finesse. And it's not working right now because we have yet to turn it on. So you got to turn on filter 1, click over here in the little, what would you call this? The block diagram area. And you're going to want to find a nice spot that you want to mess with. So this is pretty close to where I was. And we're going to go to a different ADSR. So if you right click on the ADSR down here, there's an ADSR number 2. That's what we're going to choose. And we're going to link the cutoff to this ADSR. So we're going to come into add modulation, and we're going to go to the envelopes, ADSR envelope 2, and we're going to bring the attack up a bit so it's not just so sudden in the attack slope. And let's dial this in. So in order to see the amount of modulation, you can click and it will show up over here on the side. So we're going to dial this back and just bring it down some. Something like that. It's pretty nice. Maybe a bit slower of an attack. Somewhere around there. Let's dial this back just a smidge. Oops, I reset it. Somewhere around there. So from here, let's go ahead, let's get the last little pieces of the sound on there. So we're going to come into effects. We are going to go to the layer 1. And layer 1 correlates to just this first layer that we're working on. You can have 2 layers of stuff going on, and you can have buses too. It's pretty awesome. We're going to go to layer 1. We're going to come in here. We're going to add a distortion, and we're just going to bring the drive up. You immediately get that nice, like, middle resonancy kind of an effect. So without it, with it, and we're already pretty much there. The rest is just cleaning up. I gave myself a little bit of a post EQ boost. You could do, you know, whatever kind of shape you want there. Kind of just a tonal move. And then I added an ensemble, but honestly a chorus could work just fine. Dial this in. Dial it into your taste via the mix. And then also a reverb. So we're coming here, we'll add a reverb. Let's bring the time way down just to start off, and the dampening down a bit. And the mix down some, time down more. Something like that. Yeah, and then once you're here, we pretty much have the bulk of the sound. You can mess with different resonance amounts. So you could really dial in that bite if you want. You could even move this via its own ADSR, and that could be kind of cool. Let's try a lower value. Really like the... I think where I was pretty alright, but you could go lower if you want. You know, it's going to depend on what other stuff you have going on in your track. And then we could come back here, go back to the oscillator, and mess with the bend. And so that's how I settled on the bend. So the bend at the beginning didn't really sound like it did a whole bunch, but now after all the processing, the bend can be quite a useful knob, especially if you want to dull out the sound and then bring it forward, maybe for different sections of the track. If you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know. Subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos, and have a blessed day.